All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Trek Talk. I'm TechMan16.
I'm Kirk.
And I'm Handy.
All right, and Occams is here, our returning champion. How you doing?
Outstanding. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Inko's back. Inko, what's going on?
What's up?
And boom,
Hello, hello.
you doing good today?
Oh, peachy.
Peachy, good. I like that. So I guess this is the post-war edition of Trek Talk, or not post-war, but during an actual war that's going on in the world.
I was gonna say, I think we should just start changing the name, and we need to stop calling it declaring war, because it's fucking not. It's a bunch of dudes that are fucking upset that set somebody's ally status to have a special marker. So I think we need to, I don't know, go to server 34 and maybe have a public discussion to pass an amendment to bring before the board, to bring before the Congress and the Senate to pass and change the name to something other than war. Like maybe just use KOS or something, because it's really fucking cringy. Anyway, sorry, I got ahead of myself there.
Yeah, I think you're being a little oversensitive, but it's entertaining.
Well, go fuck yourself.
I will regularly.
Already in progress.
Anyway,
I mean, when you're just not ready for shit, right? I mean, just not ready for it.
I'll tell you what, man. Never have we ever had a conflict that's so easily accessible by everyone involved or interested in seeing what's going on. Like social media, all that stuff. And it's fucking interesting to see.
It's really true.
I mean, we had with the stuff that, you had the internet and stuff like that, of course, with Afghanistan and Iraq and stuff like that, but you haven't had a conflict of this that's been so. I mean, like right now, you can go online and watch live footage from Kiev.
Well, this is the first time it's happened in a major population center, especially in a Western city with infrastructure.
Yeah,
that shit really, with the possible exception of Bosnia Herzegovina, the shit hasn't happened in Europe since World War II.
I'm really surprised that Russia hasn't tried to get rid of their ability to access online, the internet.
There has been some chatter that for some reason it seems like Russia is not using the full force of its electronic warfare capabilities to isolate the Ukraine. That does seem odd.
Doesn't it? Almost like they want to see.
Well, I don't disagree, but there's a lot of things that are going on in Ukraine that are not out of the way the Russians are conducting themselves in their war fighting, that they're very doctrine based and dogmatic, and they're straying away from the doctrine that we're used to traditionally seeing them fight with. And that's kind of interesting. Why is that? Because they don't have the capability that we've ascribed to them.
Well, no, it's actually something different. It's this move, if you will, this invasion that Russia supposedly planned. They didn't tell the army. So you have Russian soldiers made out of effectively kids who are doing this as their service to the army, like their 2-year stint, and then all of a sudden they're like, their training is, okay, here's a weapon, go invade Ukraine. So a lot of the military associated with the invasion either doesn't want to be there, had no idea that they're doing it, and then in the lead up to the actual invasion, especially the men stationed at in Belarus, they had almost like no food, and they had to sleep in like tents for like a month before the actual invasion started. So you have soldiers that aren't well fed, that aren't well rested, who had no idea what they were doing, and then told with no training to go told to invade another country.
Well, there's a lot of things at play there. One, yes, keeping his buildup took such a long period of time. It definitely would have strained his logistics. That many people in the field, especially a mechanized force, the logistical train for that is mind-boggling to people who aren't in that career field. And you know, you gotta understand that there's categories of the Russian forces. There are elite Russian units, but the majority of their Cat A, Cat B, Cat C units, as we used to call them back in the Cold War, they're not all the same. You got to realize this is an army that has only started issuing socks about 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Seriously?
The foot wrap, Russian foot wraps.
Wow.
They didn't use socks. They used foot wraps.
Also, their cyber warfare capabilities, they're not negligible. They do have skill sets there, but the reality is, in this scenario, there's not a lot they can do to cut off or truly impact Ukraine in that way. Like, they can attack government sites and things of that nature to try to take them down. But the connections that run out of Ukraine, there's a lot that go, to their west, into Europe proper, and Russia can't really, until they could actively cut those lines, there's not a lot they can do.
Well, and if you cut those lines, then you effectively declare war on Europe.
Right, it's broader. It's interesting. I was hearing somebody that's smarter than I am about tech, not this tech, that tech, and their estimate, and this is a former high-ranking military official, saying that the U.S.'s capability is the best in the world for cyber, and second would actually be China and then Russia, just that Russia has been most prolific about it. And the rationale for us not openly utilizing is to not expose our capabilities. But I also found interesting that the hacker group Anonymous has the Kremlin's website is still shut down. At least it was as of midnight last night or whatever.
Russian Ministry of Defense as well.
Yeah.
Well, Anonymous took credit for that.
Oh yeah, they had an open letter that said, yeah, fuck you, Russia. So good, because it's not like they've been our best friends for everything that we've done, but God bless them.
Yeah, that's so in any case, the situation in
What blows my
Ukraine
mind is, from anybody I've talked to, nobody actually supports their government's actions. Like, the Russian people don't want anything to fucking do with this war.
Well, but they're so oppressed, in actual terms. Like the news agencies, the few news agencies that they have that are actually independent, have been told flat out, you are not allowed to use the words war or invasion ever, in talking about this stuff. Otherwise they just get arrested.
What are they calling it? A territorial dispute?
No, they're calling it a special military operation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a
And we all know
military
what special
operation.
but they can use the words bombs because
It's just weird.
it's like one of the few independent news sources. Their front page news was Russia bombs Ukraine, and then Russia's trying to do the whole China thing by throttling Twitter, by throttling Facebook to limit the actual amount of information that comes out of Ukraine. So a large swath of the Russian populace is like has to
Basically
listen to
clueless.
state news sources. Yeah, and then the people that are more savvy, the younger generation, they're out protesting in the streets. I think that number is up to about 4,000 that got arrested for protesting the
That got
war.
arrested, yeah, because
That's-
protesting is illegal. in
Those are
Russia.
big numbers in in Moscow and St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
Well, not
The
only
people
that,
going
but
out know they're getting arrested.
And this ain't Occupy Portland, catch and release, arrested.
right? No, you can get jail time and get killed because of it. Well, you can't get killed. That's what Russia's threatening. They're threatening to remove the moratorium on capital punishment for their judicial system. But yeah, people would get arrested, and you're supposed to apply for a permit, and then you could do a single person protest, but you could get arrested for that as well. And 53 major Russian cities held protests. So that
It's
goes to
interesting
show
that
you.
you have around, depending on who you listen to, half to 2/3 of Russia's ground forces are in or around the Ukraine. I would surmise they don't really have they have forces, but the forces they have left they cannot use because they need them for internal stability operations. They got to keep a big chunk of their military internally deployed in case of uprising. So what Russia has left for ground forces probably they can't send to the Ukraine because they need them in their own country in case their own people get sporty.
It's just Ukraine. It's not the Ukraine.
But it's also interesting that it seems over the past 5 to 10 years, the butt buddy relationship with China Xi Jinping, like it seems like Russia has stepped up some of their internal control stuff, kind of along the lines of what China is, and this is almost the test. Like, can China now go and take Taiwan? I'm sure they're sitting there, with popcorn watching the news, like, what's going on? How's this going to fold? Just weird times, man.
It's interesting that the other autocrats are watching this around the world, and I'm pretty sure there's a double-edged sword, right? People are saying, okay, this is going to be a perfect distraction for China to start their invasion of Taiwan. But I'm thinking the opposite. I'm thinking the escalations that happened between NATO and European and United States and Australian kind of coalitions. People are going to think twice about pursuing military action against another, whatever you want to call it, territory, sovereign nation, yada 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 yada, whatever. And people have seen the swift reactions in the few days you stepped up from we condemn this war to these sanctions to now kicking certain things off Swift. And granted, China's not Russia, but China still doesn't want to be isolated from the world stage in terms of like banking and trade and whatnot.
Well, because China's concern is, we're a much, much larger economic, source for them, whereas, Russia is all the oil and gas. So
Right.
Economically, their biggest concern is, depending on what we do or what the world theater will do against Russia economically, the impact on China would be significantly higher.
Anyways, so far, Zelensky talked to Lukashenko. You don't know who those people are. President of Ukraine talked to President of Belarus, and apparently they're going to meet. Russia and Ukraine are going to meet at the Belarusian-Ukrainian border for peace talks, which is I don't know.
Not exactly a neutral third party.
Well, it was a lot
Right.
better than them meeting in Minsk. Minsk?
Yeah,
I liked.
yeah, for sure.
They reached out to the Israelis. They wanted to do it in Jerusalem.
Yeah, thought that was a
I
better
don't think
idea.
Russia really recognized Israel as a country either. So
Russia and Israel have very strong ties.
Yeah,
Russia,
they actually do.
Russia needs to be very careful because Israel will guarantee that people just disappear out of nowhere, and then they just show up in Israel. They're good at that.
yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
I've been watching fucking this shit for days just because I still have family friends in Ukraine and I have family in Russia. Luckily, so far.
I'm surprised that any of you. I'm surprised. I popped in yesterday, but I've just had a lot going on, getting ready for my stepson to be here. But I'm surprised that any of you had any energy to deal with that bullshit yesterday. I popped in for the little time that I had while I was at the gym, and I found it interesting that anybody had the energy to deal with that, with what's going on in the world today. So
that was kind of my point, right? That because we're recording this yesterday, we had like a little summit for Server 34, talk about decreasing hostilities towards one another, and my like when we started off, my point was like, there's an actual war in Ukraine. All of our in-game stuff should pale in comparison to what's going on
100%.
elsewhere.
But you can't discount the psychology and the stress that people are feeling, and people feel hopeless, and they're glued to their TVs and tablets and whatnot, and that's got to come out somewhere, and that'll come out in the game. Boom and I had a big talk about that when.
But you have to recognize that that's not all you're doing is just what you're doing is you're polluting your, I hate to use the term, but it's more like, it's the best term. It's like a safe place, right? Like your getaway, your escape, your fantasy world. You're polluting that with the real life anger and angst.
Well,
Right,
I mean, you're
but
taking a place where you're supposed to be enjoying yourself, and you're turning it into the same reactions that you have. You don't realize it, but I guarantee you, anybody that wears some sort of like a smartwatch or one of those Aura rings or whatever, I want you to go after you have some sort of confrontation going on in the game. I want you to go and review your heart rate, and if you have the ability to look at blood pressure or something like that, look at that, and I guarantee you that your heart rate will jump by at least 10, and your blood pressure will go up. And that's because it's a very real response. You're having a physical response to the stresses that you're dealing with. So people need to really think about that. I know I'm one to talk smack to people and everything, but for the most part, it's in jest. I don't mean most of what I say. If I say something, as far as insulting, yeah, you're probably being a dipshit, but at the same time, in real life, I drop everything and I could, and I'd help you. And that's the type of person I am. But when it crosses over into some of this stuff and screaming and yelling and cursing and all that stuff, your blood pressure is elevated. You're being affected physically by a goddamn mobile game. And there's nothing you can say that changes that. There's nothing that makes it all right. There's nothing that makes it normal. It's silly. It's dumb. It's no different than the kid that loses a video game and smashes his controller. It's literally no different.
Right, but that kid still exists. I agree with you wholeheartedly, but the reality is, you look around, and we have Karens and Craigs, and they get, upset and uptight, and call the police because somebody's loitering longer than they think they should, and bullshit like better or worse. A lot of people are just trash.
Unfortunately,
and yeah, you'll get people on here and it's pixels and it shouldn't matter, and they lose their absolute fucking minds over things. And yeah, is it physiologically impacting them? Absolutely. They probably don't give a shit. Most of them are too self-righteous to care about that, or care if it impacts somebody else, except to maybe derive pleasure in if they truly manage to upset someone. Because again, there are a lot of shithole people out there.
No, it's very true but the game and the mechanics of the game being a mobile game with, texting like in isolation, I mean, it is extraordinarily more amplifying of human toxicity than a lot of the other, MMORPG games that, have some more voice communication and that kind of thing. With the exception of Rust, that's like the penultimate of salt generation. But like this one is, there's so much, I blew up your digital pixels for a miner that means nothing. The amount of, incensed people that creates is really interesting.
Right, and we've talked about it before, but it really is that once you decouple people from the possibility of an ass whooping if they're being an asshole, and suddenly they devolve into a lot of people, not everyone, obviously, like when we're talking about generalities, there's exceptions, but a lot of people devolve into not their better selves, will obviously devolve, but yeah, they just, you take away the potential for consequences, and it's so much easier to just be an asshole because you feel like you want to be an asshole. And I don't particularly know why that is. Maybe it's because in the real life world that they feel that they're always downtrodden because they can't stand up for themselves, or I don't know, whatever it is. But you get people that you give them a keyboard and a way to talk where there's no real world consequences, and they just turn into shitbags.
Well, you said
yeah.
what you were saying earlier about the, it's going to reflect, it's going to come here, it's got to come out somewhere, so it comes out in the game. It could be from a multitude of those factors. It could be from people who, maybe they take, people sort of punching down at them or whatever. They take it, way too personally, and it's hard for them to let it go. So they're bitter because of that, or maybe it's because they simply use the game as an outlet for, emotions that are socially unacceptable, or maybe because they have a sick child, and so things set them off easily because they're subconsciously looking for an outlet for the anger, for the the heartache that they're facing. And we've talked about it at length several times, and it's definitely worth revisiting each time because this is it's an interesting time that we live in the world where, whether or not somebody wants to take a medication is people are wishing death on the other side over some shot. You have people that are trying to figure out exactly what's going on in this country so far away, but yet it's so readily available for us to look at because of what we have going on. You have the sickness and all these other things that we're facing. So I'm with you with what you said earlier. It's going to come out, but at the same time, that doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it okay. It doesn't mean what we're doing is right. So just because something is happening and we acknowledge that that's how it happens doesn't mean that we individually can't change that and change how we approach things and how we address people and how we perceive it. And that stuff is infectious. You start acting a certain way and it starts to catch on. So that's my point.
No, it's very true.
It's human nature, but and I don't think we're going to overcome it. But I do think you're right that at the very least we can be aware of there's outside factors that are amping everybody up currently.
But you can control your thoughts to an extent, right? Sometimes things pop up in your head, but you can steer which way your brain goes. I do it on a daily basis. I've mentioned it before. I'm somebody who suffers from really bad anxiety. I have other stuff going on, and there's sometimes where I'll have it come up. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But something will pop up in my head, and I just sort of try to steer it in a different direction, in a more positive direction. And you allow yourself to go down a rabbit hole of positivity rather than that catastrophizing rabbit hole of negativity. And oftentimes you'll find that it works, and you feel better. So
Well, it's just like the, everybody has had that notion. Like if you're, at a height on a balcony, like your brain goes, what if you jumped?
Yeah.
And the more rational side of you brings it back. And very infrequently do we jump off balconies. But, that's one of the things I think, Kirk's right, that, people don't allow themselves to throttle when it comes to a game with pixels.
Right.
They just let it go.
I think one of the
on
prime
top of that,
sorry, Ted, go ahead.
I just want to say, because we've said it multiple times, on top of that, you're coupling it with anonymity behind the keyboard. So
Yes.
your real, to what I think Boom said, your real life consequences are so low that you could spew whatever hatred you want. Imagine if in every mobile game and every online outlet you had to register with your real name and your real picture for verification. How much actual hate spewing are you going to get? You know, I would
It'd be very
suspect
cordial.
that a lot of this, sputum and hatred will be very much mitigated because people will then be able to look you up. You know,
There's the prime example. Everybody likes to make the joke and say that Inch is an asshole. I've talked to Inch 101, and Inch is a normal human being. He's a good guy. Don't let it go to your head, fucker.
This is recorded, right?
It absolutely is. So,
Okay.
Hey, he's a good guy. I've run some stuff by him. I've had some stuff like medical issues in my shoulder, and he's been kind enough to, hey, this is what it could be. This is what you look for. Blah 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 blah. If he's such a fucking cocksucker, why would he do that? Because he's not. And I feel like most of us are that way. So I think even me, I'm trying to sort of change the way that I'm looking at certain things because I'm recognizing that just like anything, you should reserve the right to change your opinion based on facts and circumstances presented to you. So I think that's one problem that we have in this game is that sometimes we may change our minds on things, but we're so afraid to admit that we've changed our minds because other people will hold you to something that you said a year ago, as if the human brain can't change its perception on something. And that causes a lot of issues as well. It causes people to dig in. Hey, I was wrong. You see? He admits he's wrong. He's wrong all the time. He's a piece of shit. That's what happens instead of, hey, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you admitting that. That's really awesome. And then you shake hands and move forward. And we don't have enough of that. Again, because like Tech said, the anonymity, we feel like, if it was real life, we would get on with the shit for the most part. But you have this anonymity. You can sit behind this thing, and no matter what you say and what you do, people don't know who you are. They don't know where you live, If Inch was my neighbor, I wouldn't be like, fuck you, I'll kick your ass. And then I walk outside and I'm like, hey man, how's it going? No, wouldn't happen.
Well, I mean, emotional maturity in humans has been a problem for a long time. Divorce is a great example. I'm divorced from my first wife, who is a doctor. But we had a very amicable split. But we found that when we were talking through our divorce lawyer, that's uncommon even when people are in a very similar situation where there's no, there was no huge fights, or it was just as we grew, because we started in high school and you're young and you change as you grow. Like, we just kind of started going down separate paths, and most people, they have to turn it into some sort of major conflict. Who even knows why? We often are not able to, from an emotional standpoint, just say, hey, this isn't working, or whatever. We don't see eye to eye, but we don't have to fight and kick and scream just because we don't see eye to eye. We can just accept that, okay, we don't really agree on that issue. You see that in things like in the way people discuss politics, is across the board. People have this strange need to have significant conflict if they disagree. And they also couple that with everyone has this extreme amount of self-righteousness. I'm certainly very guilty of that from time to time, but I try to at least be cognizant of it. We all like to think that we have to be correct, but we are all also human, therefore we can't be right all the time.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with, in my last job, one of the big problems you would see is that someone would, to make themselves feel better about changing their mind or their beliefs, they would try to vilify the other person to make themselves feel better and justify the way that they were treating them, and stuff like that. So you see a lot of that when you're talking about that, like somebody's trying to make them into the bad guy because then it makes them feel better about acting the way they are, when in actuality they don't need to feel guilty because they just simply changed their mind.
And to couple that notion is that's how we treat politicians. When they say something, and then you go back and dig it up and find out they changed their mind or they changed their position. all of a sudden like, yeah, that guy's a total piece of shit. He changed his mind. He wasn't right about something 15 years ago. Therefore, he's a fucking asshole. And then couple that with the incredible amounts of money that people make off said conflict in terms of either TV, print, media, whatever, to cause a discourse because it'll get more eyeballs on the product. And there's not enough of a sphere in practically any country of stance about, anti, I don't know what's the word. I don't want to say anti-bullying because that's not the right terminology. It's kind of like a de-escalation between various parties. Like in the United States, for example, right? You have your Democrats and Republicans, and media constantly blast this stupid amplification of people not getting along, and that's people's mindsets, and it totally affects how we play the game. Because it's always in the background, and people make tons of money off of it, and nobody does the whole thing where they walk out to a neighbor and say, "Hey, how's it going? Cool? Yeah, let's go get a beer or something." No, like very few people do that.
So you're saying STFC needs a bar? I'm in full support.
Bar? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Jesus,
yeah, for sure.
We
yeah.
would have so many more. There would be so many more, quote unquote wars. But still, I'm all in. Yeah, I'd love to get.
It would be like, here goes the theory crafting here. It would be so interesting to have a separate system, like if you had different rules for different systems in this game, and you had a protected area where like almost you'd go just to shoot the shit, right? Like I think that would be interesting because again, I think the thing that keeps most of us playing this game is, other than the level of addiction that it has, is it's the human interaction. Like you care about your guys, you care about your girls, you care about your alliance. You have ill feelings towards certain people, and that maybe that's what floats your boat. I mean, it's the humanistic side of things, which is weird in a scenario that amplifies the ill portions of humanity.
See, my problem is I get lost in, like you said, shoot the shit, and I immediately went down a mental tangent of, where the fuck did that phrase come from?
I don't
Boom,
know that
have you
one,
been
actually.
Boom, have you been abusing substances this morning already?
No comment.
Yeah. If you haven't, you should start.
That sounds eerily similar to my previous experiences being using various different strains of marijuana, where you just go down this rabbit hole. If somebody says something and it creates a tangent, and then you think of something, it creates another tangent, and it's just like you end up somewhere where you have no idea where you started from. It's like somebody
That's
says,
just that's my everyday with ADHD. I just sometimes things just tickle me, and I'm like, shoot the shit. Like, imagine being the first person to say that. Oh, we're gonna shoot the shit. You're gonna do fucking what now? It's just, I don't know.
well, like there's cow manure. I got my 45, and then I'm gonna try it 50 yards away, and you're like 50 yards. That running back did a 50-yard run. And that running back came from Tennessee, and then I was in Tennessee like 2 years ago, and I met this person. I wonder where he's at now. We met at this bar, and this bar was over. We were drinking this beer.
See,
Speaking of beer,
now I have the song Tennessee stuck in my head.
So here, I'll redirect you then. So here's, dictionary.com says shoot the shit appeared to have come from the 1940s after the phrase shoot the breeze, which originated because obviously shooting wind is very hard, but that shoot the shit came
What are you
from
talking about?
substituting shit for breeze.
I never miss when I shoot the breeze. I mean, how the fuck do you miss air?
Well, I guess
I
a
don't know. I
specific
work with
person
some
does.
guys.
No offense to Leo's, Kirk.
Yeah, well.
I'm glad we have the ability to use dictionary.com.
Yeah.
Now, if we
Inch-
just
Inch beat me
explain
to
to
it.
people, if we could just explain to people to use dictionary.com to read what a thesaurus is, I mean, that would solve a lot of things.
It's different than a stegosaurus, right?
Just a little bit.
I'm just
I
checking.
think they're related.
One less
They-
horn on the head,
Could
I
be.
think.
They're cousins with the last name Saurus.
You're thinking of Triceratops, man. Stegosaurus don't have horns on their head.
Yep. Knowledge. Welcome to Trek Talk.
This is nice. Now that we're talking about something completely irrelevant to the game, it shows how low of a threshold
Trying to
people
say this
have.
arc is boring. Stop it.
No, I'm not trying to say that arc is boring. I'm trying to get people to end their fucking conflicts for like a week.
Stop it. Let it go.
Yeah, why on earth would I want to take away my one joy in this game? If I don't have conflict, I'm actually left with this arc. Do you understand that? It's fucking mining. You take away my conflict, I'm gonna go cause real world conflict. That's not good for anybody.
So you're
I
going to
mean-
go to Ukraine?
Boom and I are already trying to figure out how to run guns to Ukraine.
Yeah.
Well, you just fly to Poland across the border, or Slovakia, or Romania, or Moldova.
I'm full support of that, by the way.
You have
Malcolm
to
and Boom, if
grease.
you're going, I'm going with you.
Yeah, no, we can do it. You do have to grease a few palms though to just fly into Poland with arms.
Yeah. We're not talking
Like
about check-in level. A couple of rifle cases in the check-in bin of the airliner.
There-
Little bigger in scope.
You realize you could use private aircrafts, right? Just saying.
They still often check when you come from another country. Like once you're in, hopping airport to airport is a little different. But also Poland, like a lot of the former, Soviet bloc, they love their bribes. They come up, you slip them the right amount of money. They didn't see shit. It's built into the cost of doing business in most of these places. Allegedly.
But it is very entertaining on commercial U.S. flights to bring a gun case and they go, all right, well, you open it up and, they see a disassembled 50 cal and they're like, oh, fuck, just close it. Like, it is entertaining.
Close it and put it in baggage claim.
You're like, oh, no, I don't want to look at it. I'm scared.
Back in the day when I used to travel with a lot of stuff, CONUS for training events and whatnot. I mean, I've opened up I used to scuba bag, the big scuba,
Mm-hmm.
rolling wheels. That was my go-to, and for all my ancillary gear. And yeah, I've slammed some asshole shuts in airports around the United States.
We did the same.
And I have a very humorous story about that, but I will not tell it on the air. I'll tell off the air sometime.
Every time I've traveled with guns, I've never said a goddamn thing.
What's even better than that is if you're a skydiver and you bring your rig with you, because obviously you ain't gonna have the baggage huckers fucking with the stuff that saves your life on a regular basis. So you walk onto the plane with a bunch of parachutes, and then by the way,
whoa there, DB Cooper.
We seated you in the exit row, and the flight attendant comes up. In the case of an emergency, would you be? You're like, fuck, dude, I'm set. Like, we're good.
You're on
Open
your
the
own.
door, get the fuck out, no problem.
That's funny.
See,
I was reading an article.
I was gonna say I always preferred to watch the assholes pucker of the actual other passengers. I don't know if any of you ever had the privilege of going in on a domestic flight into, say, somewhere, anywhere that is in conflict, or, for example, like if you ever went into Baghdad, when they do the combat landing, and watching all these fucking civvies with no idea what's going on, just it is, you will cry, laugh. It is hysterical because
Well,
they
probably
just kick
think they're
that.
crashing, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, because they kick that thing over and just start fucking spiraling.
Yeah.
It is.
It's
It's
designed to be.
beautiful.
It's designed to be a countermeasure in case somebody's sitting with a man pad at the end of the airport taking a shot at you, and those pilots will do shit in civilian airliners that you would have previously swore that a civilian airliner could never do.
Yep. It's the definition of coming in hot.
I mean, I've
never experienced it, but it sounds like it'd be fun.
Well, you can tell the difference on your commercial airliners of whether, because obviously most of the commercial aviators are ex-military, so you can always tell whether your guy was Navy or your guy was Air Force. Because the Air Force guys come in real slow and they flare, and it's that nice, like, gentle, easy friggin' landing. The Navy guys are dropping in like they're still trying to catch the third wire. That's where they just slam the hell out of it on the ground.
like, man, let me crack that back exit open and I'll start chucking road flares out the back, man. We could do more.
Yep.
Apparently, leaked documents shows Russia preparing for a massive medical emergency because of Ukraine war casualties.
Mental health?
No. It's
Just saying.
no, for the soldiers coming back that are wounded or dead
From their not war.
from their special military operation.
exercise. Yeah.
So they're getting
I'm
their.
going to assume the preps for the wounded, because there's not a lot to do medically for the deceased.
You would think.
Well, that just goes without saying.
Unless you have Miracle Max and they're only mostly dead.
Well, you could do Weekend at Bernie's too. So there are options.
Orlov is fine.
I want to say something because we're fucking just all over the place here, man. We're just doing this show because it's Sunday.
Yeah, have we even talked Star Trek? No, not
You
really.
realize
man.
that 75% of the people up here have horrific ADHD, right? Just saying.
Oh yeah. Well, I have 100% of it.
Yep.
I do want to say this. Speaking of ADHD, that's actually a perfect topic. I want to say this because we talk about it, we joke about it, we mess with people, but in all seriousness, people on server 34 or reach out. You can reach out to me on Discord if you got something going on. Find somebody to talk to. You can talk to me. You don't have to know me. It's fine. Say, hey man, I heard that shit you said, and I got a lot going on, and I don't really have anybody to talk to. And I will, if I can, of course, put down what the fuck I'm doing, and we can talk about it. This past week and this craziness and this invasion and all these things, it really makes you think about what's most important. And it's definitely, this game is great because it brings us all together. But it's not the end all be all. And I think throughout the past few weeks, at least on our server, we've seen some people show some glaring signs of mental health, unaddressed mental health things, issues, what have you. And I think it's important we try to bring that up. So just mentioning that, reach out, find somebody, talk to them, because if not, you'll end up in a 6-month-long war and nobody remembers why it started. Or conflict. Fuck using that word.
I've reached out to Occam, just saying.
Occam's lost cause.
Oh, no, I meant for Micah issues.
Oh, I understand.
He's helping.
That's
Is he
great.
helping or is he fanning the flames?
I don't know, but I feel better.
I mean, you know what? That's all that matters. It's only crazy if it doesn't work.
I've said a lot on it. I think that if you guys don't go to the mattresses in 34 and and have a decisive war with some negative results for somebody, if you Diplo your way out of this, you're just kicking the can down the road again. And if you think this level of instability and madness is bad, wait till the next one.
Yes. Embrace the hate and do not just fan the flames. Thermite that shit.
I could agree with that, but at the same time, I think when it comes to the human aspect of it and dealing with people, I think you need to that shit. That's not something that you recover from easily. You're not just gonna, you can blow up a bunch of my ships, and that's okay. We'll get over that. But if you're insulting me and condescending and things like that, that's stuff that you don't really get over. So try to
That's
think
why
about that shit.
that stuff needs to stop. The whole psyops bullshit needs to stop.
Yeah, it needs
both
to stop
sides.
with the posting screenshots like you're a fucking 13-year-old middle schooler.
My
We all
favorite
need to
is
stop that.
people posting screenshots when it's not even their ships doing the damage.
Yeah, it's different things like that. Here we finally come full circle back into the game. People doing stuff like that. I mean, there's not. Look, man. At the end of the day, if it hasn't worked, then you continuing to do it isn't going to change anything. It's an exercise in futility, the definition of insanity, and continuing to do that stuff, it's not having the effect that you're hoping it is. And people need to realize that. And it's okay that you fucked up and it didn't work.
Well, some of these people don't. Their motives are different from ours.
Yeah,
Their motives are
that's a fair point.
to fan the flames, to throw napalm on the issues.
Care, and they don't care about the consequences to those around them. They're going to try to insult you, dig at you. They want to bring you down to whatever level they're at. And for those ones, you have to recognize who they are and block them, and just don't worry about, look at, or engage with that. Because otherwise you will find it impacting you in a negative way, which is obviously things that, we don't want. But that is the one little side tangential thing to that is there are going to be a few shitbags out there who are really just truly looking to be active shitbags. They don't care. They're going to say whatever nasty or bullshit or try to spin out whatever just to irritate you. And yeah, that you just have to, easier said than done sometimes, but you really just have to ignore it and turn a blind eye and just not even engage. Because otherwise you're setting yourself up to have a shitty time or be frustrated. And then they're ruining the game for you, which kind of makes it a victory for them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, it's been interesting over the past month or so to see some of the, obviously there's tons of rhetoric and, everybody, loves to say that, again, remember I'm the Chinese, I got to remember the whole thing. I'm the trust fund Chinese hacker living in my mom's basement. You're running a cult. But it's really interesting to see, having spoken with some people that I've never spoken with before, that they've absolutely bought into that idea of a person. It's fascinating. Like, that's exactly what it is. And it's like, it's almost, self-amplifying, in their own minds.
And in
people
that
can't remember
case,
people
they're
like people.
Correct.
No argument. I'm just surprised they knew, like, oh, wow.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that those people do exist, but there are some people who want to make you feel shitty, and they will do their best to do that. Yeah.
And there's nothing you can ever do to change them or that behavior. All you can do is just, rise above it, ignore it.
Right, because that comes down to a personality thing.
Burn their entire alliance to the ground.
Right. I mean, but again, that's where the difference between, what's a actual personality trait, which is inherent and you cannot change, there are people like that. And they're a lot worse out in the world. That's how you get serial killers and all that shit. But varying on that spectrum are people that just take pride or joy in the suffering of others.
And I should say the secondary part to dealing with that type of person is to burn their alliance. The idea, when you have Corey, give it no ground to go to. When they are assholes and they engage in being assholes, you can't impact them directly, but you can take the fight to their alliance and work them over. And over time, their alliance will turn on that person for causing and continuing to inflame the conflict. And they'll get frustrated, and that person will either end up having to abandon their cause or abandon their alliance and be stuck out in the cold on their own. And either one is an effective way to manage them because it isolates them and makes them much less impactful.
But
but if you try to just target that person, it's never gonna fucking work.
Right, that's an uphill battle. So, interesting segue that actually gets into gameplay. What is y'all's experience, anybody else, with the player who is a known, bottom feeder, pariah, racist, sexually inappropriate kind of player that, has gotten to the point where they've been more or less isolated, occasionally hop into lower alliances that are just ignorant of what type of person that is? What's y'all's experience with those people in game?
Well, see, when you had it at bottom feeder pariah, I was gonna say, well, fuck, I brought we brought Occam into the fold, but he's not racist or anything. So those people exist, and they say terrible things, and it's the same scenario. They end up isolating themselves through their behavior, and sure, they'll run around and hit people's miners, ships, whatever. We don't have a lot of that. The one thing I will say is because on our server, we do things like in our actual just server 45 Discord, we have what's called the neighborhood watch. And if someone posts, sexist or homophobic, or they make any of those things, we do take those screenshots. We post them in the neighborhood watch, and we don't have any alliance on our server, at least that I can think of, that's like, oh, that's okay, we want that type of person. So they very quickly fully isolate themselves from everyone when they partake in that kind of behavior. And I would encourage that you get at least even if all your alliances hate one another otherwise, I feel like most alliances can agree on certain things are not okay and nobody should allow that. And if you get everybody to agree to that and enact kind of the neighborhood watch thing, you can start to help eliminate some of that kind of talk, because that kind of talk it's toxic and it's bullshit and it doesn't fucking belong anywhere, period. And I feel like you should be able to get everybody's buy-in. Like I know Nona and MBD don't get along. I don't know why. I don't care. But I imagine both sides can say, yeah, fuck sexist people, fuck homophobic people. Like we don't stand for that kind of hate speech.
Personal threats is also the other big one.
Yeah.
But you have to take so that neighborhood watch that we use has been very effective in that those, like you were referring to, either that smaller alliance that the guy hops in them, and now this alliance is like, why is everybody so pissed at me all of a sudden? So that opens their eyes if they do their due diligence. But you do have to take a little bit of a high road and make sure that channel is well moderated. So the high standards, not this guy said a mean thing to me, this person doesn't like me, we got into what we called each other a bunch of names that were like, you're an asshole, you're a douchebag, whatever. You got to make sure that channel stays on task for those higher level offenses that nobody wants to tolerate. Otherwise it just turns into another bitching channel.
Are you not viewed as the quote unquote server police by doing so? Is this a neutral Discord, or
Yes.
Yeah, this is the neutral server Discord, and anyone who gets that type of hate speech. So it is locked down to, I think, like admirals only or something like this, so that not everybody's just posting in there all the time. So if you experience that sort of thing, you bubble it up and they post it there. But it's a neutral, and any alliance can post that type of speech. Or if they see those, they post the screenshots, and
You know,
yeah,
and sometimes alliances will put their own dirty laundry out, like, hey, we got this guy and we kicked him out of our alliance, and these are the reasons why, in case we don't want anybody else to pick him up and have to go through what we went through. So it's not always about finger pointing. It's like, hey, shining a spotlight on a known problem.
mm-hmm.
And the moderators on that community Discord, they started out with a really high standard of what beats the threshold, and then they found their way and dialed it in and even more. It's the most no nonsense channel in I would say on that Discord. Just, you don't screw around in that channel.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that's one of the things that the moderators keep it locked down to, basically, only those sorts of posts, and anything else gets deleted out.
It's interesting because I feel like we have, at least we on 34, have not had a truly neutral, impartial Discord. Handy, would you agree? Is that, or Kirk? It
Yeah,
seems
I'd
like the
agree
ones that
with
we
that.
have been a little biased.
No, there's a reason why I'm no longer a part of the one that claims to be the one for our server.
see, and I definitely get and understand that. I just feel like certain things, like a neighborhood watch, if the criteria is straightforward and clear, then even if the mods are entirely biased on certain things, well, I do feel that part of that is you make sure you have a few moderators from several alliances. That way, it's not just owned by one. But again, for neighborhood watch stuff, like if someone says, like, I think all gay people should burn, or some bullshit like that, that's not an alliance bias issue. Like, that is a very clear, straightforward example of bigoted speak, and it belongs in the neighborhood watch, and doesn't matter if the server moderator otherwise thinks, for example, Nona's a bunch of assholes. If someone says that to a member of Nona, it's still clear and cut and dry. And yes, if you have an issue where they start trying to delete that sort of shit and let people talk about a certain alliance but not others, okay, then yes, you have a problem. But I feel like in most cases, at least when it comes, at least for us, because we were for a long time diametrically opposed to who was running our actual server, the server 45 Discord, to the point where we ended up ultimately decimating their alliance. But even though we were diametrically opposed, Neighborhood Watch, I guess, came out a long time later. But I feel like even at that time, we had moderators that, regardless of if we hated one another, when some of that shit came up, they would never try to silence that sort of thing. And so I guess if you find that your
transcend their, personal biases for, true hate type speech.
There's not personal bias in someone, like, saying, using racial slurs, like, stuff like that. Like that's just, it's flat out not acceptable. And I feel like, as much as, even if you guys hate one another, that you can all probably reach at least some bare minimum agreements on shit like hate speech.
Yeah, I think we could, if we had that server, which I would be hopeful this would actually become that server, not for personal reasons, but for, like Trek and Kirk and whatnot, stating very openly and honestly that there is not censorship, there's not, personal bias, and making that essentially part of the mission statement, if you needed one for a Discord server. I think that's actually a positive move, because I do think that inherently we all forget that there are human beings on the other end of the keyboard or phone, too frequently in this and many other games.
I'm half cyborg, so it doesn't apply to me.
Fair enough.
Outside of all this doom and gloom, I do want to point out that humor and comedy is also a very powerful tool to relieve stress. So that's why I always turn to
Absolutely.
making a joke or two or six or obnoxiously 15, try and get people to laugh, so that we deal with a lot of shit in real life. Whether you're going through mental health issues like everybody on this stage, or if you're going through personal crises with kids, spouses, loved ones, a conflict in the country you've never heard of, and now you apparently know its geography very well. Um, Making sure to take time out of your day to laugh would significantly lighten everybody's mood. And that goes to all the screenshot warriors that post screenshots of their conflict in their stupid little game. Or, if you're server 12. Because I don't think we have server 12 in our Discord right now. Anybody miss those guys?
Which ones were they?
They were the Care Bear server where they had the gigantic list of rules. Like, you couldn't defend your own base and what were the other rules? Oh, you had to screenshot the armada if it was damaged before starting it, and then screenshot it after or whatever for disputes.
Oh.
And you remember that?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember that. It's freaking crazy.
That sounds so horrifically painful. That's not a game. It'd be like, Excel spreadsheet, the game.
Yeah, shit like that. Shit like that is exactly why we bailed on a server ROE and said, fuck you. Our ROE is this. Have fun.
Right, so from server 12, we had several of these discussions with them because we had their top leaders come on the show and talk about changing the rules and whatnot to better benefit players. Because effectively, it was the Care Bear server because nobody can touch anybody because of all these rules, and then it was the Law and Order SVU server because if you scroll through their Discord, through their like admin chat on their Discord, it's just nothing but like screenshots.
Oh my god.
Didn't they have
Everything's an investigation. Holy
Didn't
shit.
they have like a really powerful alliance or group of alliances that were
No.
actually the server police?
Well, everybody was server police, but effectively, a lot of those rules kept their population like relatively healthy, but it limited the amount of rage spending that they had. So even though they're older than all of our servers, they don't have as powerful alliances or as powerful players because all these rules prevented people from really spending all that much money on Scopely.
It's so fascinating, these little microcosms.
To me, that sounds good. I'd love to not have to give Scopely money.
Well, nobody's twisting your arm to do it now. I mean, that's all your
No,
own
of course
ego.
Of course not.
and I say that like
I'm twisting his arm. Shut the fuck up.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm level 55, so clearly I have ego too. Like, but I have to recognize that, like, when I'm pushing levels, especially back when I did some during conflict, that it was 100% because fuck those people. I'm not taking this shit, and then I drop a bunch of money, and so I am very much the pot calling the kettle black there.
Yeah. And it's always entertaining, for the people that are true rage spenders and seeing what they rage spend on or how they do. Because I mean, at least in my opinion, I may not know much, but I probably know a little bit about what packs do in this game, and like functionally how you do that strategically is like its own officer setup. If you don't do it right, it's such a waste. It's an absolute waste of time, life, money, whatever. Yeah, so it's fun.
Nico, admit it, you bought the Vault of Latinum.
Oh, who doesn't, dude? Best thing in the game. Dude,
Yeah, that's the best
that
deal
2K
there was.
lat.
I'm upset they took it away.
They took it away, but then they brought it back, and I was all excited again, and then they took it away again. I mean, they're playing with my feelings, and
Yeah.
it hurts.
Does it scale per level? Is it still like 2,000 Latinum and 200,000 par steel?
That's
Yeah, it never
exactly what it is.
changed.
Yeah, I think let's see if they have it now, because it's not there today.
Yeah, no, they didn't have it the other day.
I'm so heartbroken.
Well, if you buy it, you
But
get an
thank God
even bigger Vault of Latinum. For $99.99,
Yeah.
you get 3,000 gold and 300,000 par steel.
I
Thank
didn't
God you can
realize
get
they
another
took it
Feesha.
out.
Yeah, but realize you can get another Feesha that you still can't tier up. Just saying. I sent in a ticket about that, by the way, because I had finally, thankfully, been able to scrap the original Devore, and I'd actually bought a Feesha as well. And if you get a second Feesha, which I would not recommend by any stretch of the imagination, you can't tier it up at all. It's like the old, wasn't it the Vidar that was like that, or the Franklin? So you can't tier it up at all, and eventually in the future they'll have the ability. You'll have to buy whatever pack it is to get the warp doodad or whatever it is.
Oh,
Yeah, there
okay.
you
I
go,
didn't
Tolstoy.
know.
There's my old favorite vault.
I didn't know it was gated with it's level gated with particular
Yeah,
warp things.
yeah. It's a whatever special doodad that with your first one appeared magically in your gifts, but a second one you have absolutely no ability to tier up at all.
See, normally when they come out with something new, you see those packs, they're limited time. Like as a whale, I jump on them to make sure I get whatever, because oftentimes they never bring them back around. But I have to admit, like the whole Feesha, like I've not spent a dime on that. I scrapped one of my fully tiered Devores because why not? And I built it, and I have a tier 1 level 5 for it, and I just could not. I could not give any less of a shit about this fucking ship or what it does. To me, it's such crap. I don't.
And I'll give evidence to why you're absolutely correct. So if you fully tier it up, the whole 9 yards and whatever, you can turn in, I think it's 1.5 million of the concentrated latinum a day to get 40k latinum. So from a whale perspective, that's roughly 1/10 of the lat you get in the packs that have more lat. Some of the packs are weird; they have a lot less lat, but tiered up, you get 400k and change latinum for a pack. So, I mean, obviously at that level, like you're no longer caring about lat, and 40k a lat is a lot to a lot of players, but they're not going to be able to tier it up to actually get to that point. So, I mean, just generally speaking, it
40k sounds great to someone who, but by the time you're getting to that level, 40k is just not that relevant.
Now, to be truthful, that is 20 vaults of latinum. Okay, so it's a lot.
When you buy the Feesha packs, do you actually get Latinum for those packs?
Oh, hell, I don't know.
Inco, you bought them all. Why don't you know?
Do you think I look at that? Yeah. So like, interesting point. So like, if you get the full unlock Feesha pack, you get 45k lat in that. But like, if I do a like a station upgrade pack. There's 493k lat in that pack. So they're kind of bipolar with some of them are, a little bit of lat and some of them are these, large chunks of lat.
Yeah, but the reality is like Inco's not going to be looking at, like, I don't look at how much lat is in a pack because it's so irrelevant. And, Inco, I think
Not
you're
why you're buying the pack.
60. Right, exactly. And like I'm a 55, but even at around 51, 52, lat, I stopped caring about how much lat was in a pack. Really, actually, way before that. But even for people just leveling up now, like you hit a point where if you're at that level, you're going to have millions of lat. You just are. So you don't give a shit. It's so irrelevant.
Yeah, it really makes no difference. I just found that was interesting. That sometimes they have these, 400 and change K lat, and some of them are still like 40K. And why that is, I mean, obviously they have an internal calculus of what something is inherently worth when they try to, put these packs together. But it's blah. It's just, noise.
I used to feel like it was just that they hadn't gone back and updated a lot of them yet. Because it had been, I was seeing all the new ones seem to always have the 400 and whatever thousand. But then, like this last, when I looked at the Feesha, it didn't, it had a much smaller amount, which I thought was peculiar. So now who the fuck knows? Like,
Right.
they have some sort of idea. Damned if I can figure out what the hell they're doing.
Well, I mean, obviously,
Well, I think some packs scale with levels, some do not.
And
That's
that
what it
could
is.
be it. So like that could be it because the Feesha is not a scalable thing. But it still cracks me up that if you're buying a pack because you really want to mine lat and you really want lat, that it has less lat.
That's funny. I like what Tolstoy posted. You buy a pack, tier 7 Feesha pack, and it comes with 200,000 latinum. So what are you buying the Feesha for if you just buy the lat?
One vault at a time, brother.
One vault at a time. Just open up the chest. Here's my latinum.
Mm-hmm.
I heard they fixed the whole mining thing, right? Where your tier 9 Horizon with the Ferengi officers mines faster than the Feesha with Ferengi officers.
I hadn't even heard that. There's been so little chatter about the Feesha at all. Like I haven't seen anybody even talk about it. I hadn't heard that one.
Well, I mistakenly, not mistakenly, but I clicked on DJ's show one time, and somebody did the math where a tier 9 Horizon with the Ferengi officers mined latinum C-lat faster than the Feesha tier 1.
I think the break even was actually more like the Tisha had to be. I thought it was like tier 4, but I don't exactly remember. But
Yeah,
that was
a
kind of
breaking
ironic.
point, which is ridiculous. Hey, let's release a ship and some officers for a new thing to mine, but our old stuff can mine it faster.
All right, folks.
I mean, this.
Hey,
sorry. Go ahead.
Give me a second. It's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. I got to go hang out with the family. It's been great. Y'all take it easy.
Have a good one. Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like the reason this ship came out is because of fundamental lack of playing their game and understanding their game, and they're looking at engagement numbers on how many people score on Lat Rush Monday, discounting the fact that that's such a passive thing that it's so quick and easy to send something out versus when they look at their engagement for things like PvP. I will continue to beat the drum that if they want to encourage PvP in this game, that they need to make it worthwhile. There's things that they can do to, like increase the rewards in the PvP ship pack or something like that. It doesn't have to be game breaking. I'm not saying that if I go and blow up another player, I get 10 billion par steal, but fucking do something to make it worthwhile enough Because this game is got so little that you can actually do. Like, you collect or you farm a hostile. The only actual dynamic interactions you can have is ship-to-ship combat, where these players use different ships and different crew loadouts, and that gives you something to do. But they're not encouraging it. They're not doing anything to push you down that road, and that is, in my mind, a problem.
But
They need to do something.
They constantly say, "Oh, this is a PvP game. It's a PvP game."
Right. They want it to be
enough.
Yes, they want it to be a PvP game, but they're doing nothing to actually encourage it to be so. And I feel like if they actually did something like add extra rewards into PvP chests, it would encourage, and they would actually, even though they're giving away more, it would not hurt their bottom line. People would not buy less because they're PvP farming. What would actually happen is more people would be playing. Also, more people would be like, fuck, I can't take that guy. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to buy a ship pack and tier my ship. You know what? Like, they would actually reduce their attrition and increase spending just by boosting the value of PvPing.
Right. Because, I mean, if you think about it, particularly when you get to the higher level ships, like, you know, what you gain, like the pack that's, you know, the PvP, you know, chests are so antiquated that you don't get anything. Like, I don't see any reason why you couldn't at least boost those to some degree or another. You know, even as much as, like, if you're blowing
I'll
up
tell you
somebody's but I'm to promote PvP.
Okay,
So,
but Scopely doesn't want to promote PvP. They want to promote PvP between people that want to PvP. What they don't want to do is upset the people that don't want to PvP, because they play the game too.
Well, it's
and
like
if you
that.
incentivize blowing up ships for no reason, people will start doing it, and they'll lose a lot of players that don't like getting hit.
Well, but so you incentivize it for warships. You can exclude surveys because most of those people that don't want, like, there's not a lot of people that are, I don't want a PvP, but I randomly have this warship hanging out here. Like, those people are just farming with surveys, and leave those out of it. If you send a warship out, you are most likely looking to, you could be grinding hostiles for rep, whatever, but even then, the PvP, I don't feel it's that disruptive. I actually think those people would be more likely to rage spend to get a bigger ship and actually improve Scopely's bottom line, because Scopely actually doesn't care about the player that doesn't want a PvP. They only care about, will this person continue to play so we can make money, or how are we going to make our money? And I think that that's still going to be a better overall path to increased sales for them, which is really all they're going to care about. I don't know.
Exactly, but you also got to remember that most whales like to have fodder. They like to have the people they can beat up on.
I don't care. I prefer it. I don't know. I prefer someone close. Like, I had a lot more fun blowing up Occam ships and him blowing mine up than I do like going and blowing up some level 42 and like a 7 million Katinga. Like, that doesn't get my rocks off. It's boring.
Yeah, but at the same time, you know, most people are just looking for a win, and they don't care what kind of win it is, I think.
Hey, Nightbeard said something interesting. It says, the cloak for PvP, you could see cloaked ships. Can you guys see cloaked ships?
Occasionally, there's like a little, it's not 100%, but sometimes there's like a zoom, like you zoom.
Well, you see them come in and out of system, you can see them.
Well, there's a bug sometimes. I'll do it like on armadas, like if I'm camping on a hostile armada, and the leader's cloaked. Sometimes you can zoom in and out, do the pinch real quick, and you're not able to target them, but you'll see where their ship is.
Interesting.
God damn, this game is so fucking broken.
It doesn't always work, and I found that when you do it, like say I'm sitting in the circle of an armada and it's somebody we're at war with, and I know there's a guy in there because I can see the counter that there's somebody in there, but I know
you can just click on the armada and see who's in it.
And so you know they're in there, but you don't know exactly where they are. If you do the pinch in and out and you hit the sweet spot, you'll see them, and then lately I've noticed that you'll see them, and if you keep pinching in and out, you'll see like a flash of their ship that one time. And then lately it seems like, and then you keep pinching it out, and you're like, ah. So you know that you can get your ship right on top of them, so that if they win, if it's a small enough armada where they win, you're in position to pick them off as soon as the their cloak is down and the armada protection is over.
Right.
With their armadas, you can't win.
Shut up, Inch.
How did that Borg cube go for you, buddy?
No, I was so pissed. They deleted it as soon as they.
Yeah, I know. Once they made it so you could have ships that could actually take it, they're like, and we're gonna move this now.
So here, I gotta cry whale tears for a
Did
minute.
they move it or did they delete it?
It just deleted it. But so recently with this last Armada event, like I'm randomly sending ships or something, and fucking Handy is kicking me out of the Armada, PMing me, telling me get out, it's too big. Everybody can't complete their event. I'm like, I'm feeling like I'm well.
It's a goddamn damage event, and this son of a bitch is sitting in there with a 170 mil ship, and you've got like 10 mil ships, and they're like just running armadas over and over again because Inch is sending to every single one, and none of them are getting any damage in, and nobody's saying anything.
Like, but when I get there, I'm like the second person. Like, I try to check.
Is faster.
Man, but come on, it's the same rules as like you don't send your ship to G3 armadas, do you? I mean,
I hope not.
So
What's that, Pars?
I said I did all of my armadas with Incho there, and I finished the event.
See, Handy,
but he plays 24/7.
He's a whale shamer. He's a fat shamer. That's Handy.
Yeah, he just hates everybody.
That's true.
Yeah, I'll hate on you.
He loves his dogs.
It's my joy in life.
He does love the dogs.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard him say some nasty things about the dogs.
He doesn't hate everyone. He just hates fat people in the Inch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
I think he hates Twisted too.
Everybody hates Twisted.
Twisted's my homie.
Oh, that's just me. Sorry.
Yeah, it's just Inch.
Yeah, because I'm the egomaniacal hater. I keep forgetting.
Yeah. I mean, you're the only thing that's wrong with our server, just so you know, Inch.
Oh, I thought it was the whole game. Am I not? Fuck.
I thought I was
a blow to my ego. Parzi, you're definitely a problem, but you're our problem.
Yeah.
I'm currently the current propaganda war from our enemies going on our servers is currently raging around me, which is kind of interesting because I don't think I've really ever had that before because I just don't talk to these fuckers. I just kill them. And it was over something I said on your guys' server here. And man, they are desperately trying to say that I don't know, all sorts of things.
What is it? Are you going to join me in the basement?
I haven't said a word in rebuttal. I got.
What did you say?
So I did this redneck simile. There was a guy in the 45 that we're at war with, and he's a moron. Hi, Evil. You're a moron. And he was talking to one of our guys, Mighty Mouse, and it was the typical, I don't care. We didn't really want our territory anyway. Look at my PD and look at my, I'm doing great. And, him and Mouse were kind of going back and forth, and Mouse was being, particularly calm and rational for him. And this guy just kept trying to one up it about my PD, my PD, my PD. So I wrote this, simile of, like I was quoting him, and one of them was like, hey, I had a real, I said, I have to run this through the translation filters, but basically MM saying, hey, I had a really nice Valentine's Day with the wife. Good day. And Evil's response would have been with his one-upmanship, yeah, well, I beat you because I sucked off 12 truckers behind the dumpster of the gas and stop at $2 a pop. I win.
I remember reading that. That was hilarious.
Oh my god, I am the worst piece of trash that ever walked.
Yeah, well, my dad can beat up your dad, so you know.
They're like, "Oh, he's homophobic," and Boom's like, "Where do you
What?
get that out of what he wrote?"
Yeah, no, your statement. Everyone was having a good time. Like when they
It was
start
supposed to
saying
be a
it's
joke, right?
yeah, no. Well, first it was clearly hyperbolic. Like the whole nobody can reasonably take from this instance that Occam is saying that gay people are bad. Like that's nowhere in there. But also B, that he was actually saying that's what evil was actually doing. Like it's an obvious fucking simile and it's hyperbolic.
Right.
But yeah, it's actually very telling how they started going off of that's disgusting and offensive, and I was like, wait, okay, in this scenario, like some people had a good time doing filthy things in a dirty place, but why is this disgusting or offensive unless you don't like what is your fundamental problem here? Because really what it boils down to is it seems like bigotry to me, but
Well,
I don't.
they took a statement that was just joking around, and I don't think anybody here really gives a shit if guys go and suck each other off in a goddamn bathroom at a truck stop. I
Who
don't
said it
ever
was a
have to see
guy?
it, so who gives a shit?
No, there's a point that was one of the arguments. Well, he is an outstanding father and husband. I'm like, I don't even know the gender of this person. I've never talked to this person directly. I don't know what their gender is. I don't know what their proclivities are. I don't know, and I don't care. So, I'm like,
Yeah,
I just assume because of the gay, they tried to say it's something about you don't like gay people or something that you would
they
assume that
pretty
the
much took
person must be a
issue with
man.
every part of it except for truckers. Truckers got a pass.
Oh, okay.
well, because they're protesting right now, so that makes them okay.
They were upset at the dumpster. They were upset with the gas and stop. They were upset with the actual oral sex. They were upset that it was that $2 a pop was being charged. Everything was basically complained about, except
that
for
too cheap?
except for the truckers.
Is that too cheap? Do you think they would have been, they would have felt better about the whole thing if you had said $100 a pop?
I
Well,
mean, I don't know.
welcome to STFC, where you can argue about the price of a blowjob. It's content.
I mean, I felt that of all the things I said in that comment, probably the most offensive that was Evil had that bad of a business sense that they were only charging $2. I thought that was the real insult that they should have took issue with.
You obviously don't know the value of a blowjob, man.
I mean,
Yeah, you're selling yourself short.
yeah, you need a little more experience here.
Oh, good times.
On that note, I think it's a good place to kill it right here.
Mm-hmm. I think we killed it long ago today.
Yeah.
It wasn't last week. I'm sorry.
And it wasn't yesterday either.
I'm still not understanding what happened yesterday. I was so
Did
befuddled.
anybody record that? I don't think we recorded it.
No, we didn't record that.
Thank God. What a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you were one of the main contributors to said clusterfuck, Inch.
Well, when every statement calls you names again, like I'm so sick of it.
Oh, I don't blame you. I may have done the same thing.
It's
Just
just
saying.
such a mental beatdown. Like I'm just so over it.
Clearly, your opponents need to come up with some new names to call you. Just keep it fresh.
I
Just
know.
Don't be nice to. I'm not telling anybody to be nice to Inch. Just come up with some new material.
Just it's all your ego. Oh, your ego. Like, man, do you realize how subservient I am in my life?
I got a good one. Inch is a Russian oligarch.
Ooh, that's actually kind of harsh.
Real talk though. Inch is not a dictator. He really isn't. Like, you want to blame
Fuck you,
shit
Andy.
that happens in our alliance on Inch? That's not fair at all. You got to blame it on all of us.
You tell him, Mars.
That was
Tell
Luna. Hi, Luna.
Tell Luna.
What do you want, a treat?
I want a treat.
You're getting too fat. No treat.
Up. There we go.
I am the dictator. You have been dicked.
Oh, jeez. All right, I think we've gone through various little tangents here, but if anybody takes anything away from this episode is, I think everybody
Let us
stands in
know.
solidarity with Ukraine. There's a real war going on, and all of your petty little squabbles in this game really don't amount to much when your country's under attack and you have to defend it. So please, everybody take that into perspective and learn to laugh a little at various things that happen. That's right, right, baby. Just like you are. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And if you're a sex worker, price yourself accordingly. Be proud of your product.
Thank you for that, Malcolm.
All right, guys.
That was a digital exclamation point.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please like, subscribe, comment, do all the things social media asks you to do. And this has been Trek Talk. I'm TechMan16.
And I'm Handy. And Kirk is LARPing.
And my kid says, see you guys next time.
Yeah, I got that.
Right? All right, yeah. Feel free to jump into the after party.